Well, hello there. This is your moderator, Lori Dearman with WebAttract, your end-to-end solution provider for webinar demand creation. And you are in the right place for how to use mobile and social media to jumpstart your business. And in just a moment, I'll be introducing our panel of thought leaders, as today's webinar is about hearing from these experts as they share real-life examples of their proven techniques using mobile and social media to grow businesses. Today we have a diverse audience of over 250 professionals from 30 states and provinces representing a variety of industries, with a pin marking each state that's represented on the map, not the actual number of attendees. All of us are here to learn how mobile marketing and social media can take your business to the next level. Regardless of your industry segment or your location, we're confident that you'll find today's webinar of value. That does bring us to our first poll for today, and we would like to hear from all of you. Have you researched or purchased a product or service on your mobile device in the last 6 months? So just really curious where you're at in this process. Is it yes, you've researched and purchased? Maybe you've just researched, just purchased, or maybe neither. 53% of you have researched and purchased, so that's more than half of us having researched and purchased. 29% researched only, 4% purchased only, and just 14% of you saying no, haven't done that yet. So very interesting statistics. I know our speakers are going to find those interesting as well, so thank you for sharing that information. At this point, I would like to introduce our first speaker for today, and as we all know, life happens even in the world of live webinars, and unfortunately some unexpected circumstances presented themselves today, preventing Todd Leloy from joining us for this live presentation. Luckily, however, we do have Ray Wonder, also of Orange Soda, and he's able to join us and share his experience and expertise on this topic. First, a few words in the way of an introduction for Ray. Now, Ray Wonder is director at Orange Soda Incorporated, owned by Deluxe Corporation, a digital marketing company. Ray and his marketing team at Orange Soda work with thousands of businesses, from Fortune 100 companies all the way to local businesses, helping them grow their business online. Ray has also been in the shoes of a small business owner, managing sales and business strategies for local businesses that saw 90% of its revenue from online sales and a specific focus on social media marketing. Now, the company that Ray worked for in the past was also ranked in the top 50 retail companies in the U.S. by Inc. 500. So Ray, thank you so much for pinch hitting today for Todd, and with all of your experience in this area, I know we're in for a real treat. So welcome to the webinar.
Thank you, Laura. It's good to be here. I do appreciate the opportunity.
And now, why don't we go ahead and get started by telling folks what you hope they'll get out of today's webinar.
Absolutely. So first of all, I'm glad to be here. Thank you for having me. As Lori mentioned, I work with a number of small businesses every day, and I also worked specifically with I worked in a small business and was able to really see how this business grew online. And that's what I want to share with you today. My commitment to you is we're going to go through and talk about the basic steps and things you need to know that will hopefully help you improve your presence online. So first and foremost, we'll talk about the mobile explosion, the growth that's happening and how you can capitalize on that growth. Secondly, we'll take a look at websites. We'll go through some website designs and best practices. I'll talk you through ways that we use social, mobile, and local strategies to really make a difference when we're looking and trying to do business online. And I'll give you a couple of case studies with that, as well as some ideas of things that you can do today. So like Lori said, the market is growing, and it's growing tremendously. As we saw, 53% of you had said, look, I researched something and I purchased something online using my phone over the past few weeks. You know, that's not uncommon anymore, and we're starting to see businesses respond in kind. For example, the stat shows you that there was $8.3 billion that was spent in 2013 in mobile marketing. It is estimated, based on the growth rates that we're seeing this year, that next year, in 2015, we're going to spend $33.1 billion to attract companies and businesses. And that's a huge number. It's growing by 300%. So my question is, what are we doing to make sure that we as small business owners are part of that? And we're capturing some of that growth as well. So one of the interesting things that we found out was when somebody actually researches something on their mobile device, versus a desktop, which really is obsolete now. So let's say a laptop or a tablet, 93% of those people who use their mobile device will go on to complete a purchase, and most of those are going to be in your stores. And that's kind of intuitive when you think about it. Most of us are walking around with our phones. We're looking for some place to eat, or I don't know how you are, but usually I'm watching TV and I'm passing time with my mobile phone and I'm searching on different websites, looking at things to buy. And it's amazing that really the power of a business now is in the fingertips of our audiences. So we need to make sure that we capitalize on that. Mobile smartphone users are expected to increase by 25% actually during this year to 1.76 billion users. There's a group of us, there's 12 of us that kind of do a lot of work together, and we have meetings every Sunday. And there's one person of the 12 that doesn't have a smartphone. And it's interesting how we all rely on our smartphones so much that it's actually tough to get him connected with everybody else and up to speed on everything, because he's the one person that doesn't have a smartphone, and we all kind of kid him about it. And I know that he's going to buy one over the holiday season, but we're starting to see more and more people make the move and make the jump to getting a smartphone. And finally, when people are looking on their phone or they're looking at their tablet and they're trying to find you, if your site is either slow, or if they view it and they're like, yeah, I don't really trust this site, they think it's unprofessional, more than 50% of those shoppers will leave immediately. So let's go through some of the things that you need to look at when you're looking at your website. So if you have your website open, that's great. If you don't, think through your website, and let's make sure that we have some of these things. Number one, it needs to be professionally designed. Now, there's a lot of different templates. If you look at any type of website design company, they're going to give you some ideas and templates that you can use. Now, most of those templates are going to have items kind of shifted around the page, kind of to your preference, but there's going to be specific items that are on every homepage. I'll go through those items in the next slide, but I'll also talk about it here. We need to make sure you have your logo, and you can see some of those items on here, your phone number. We were actually perusing some websites the other day, and more than 30% of them did not have a phone number or a call to action on it. So what's happening is people can visit that website, but there's really no reason for them to move forward with any type of decision to either purchase or to make an appointment. The second thing we want to point out is to make sure that your content is professional. What I mean by that is have a friend look through your website and have them give you, on a scale of 1 to 10, do my products, do my pictures that I display on my website, do they look professional? When you read my content on my website, does it sound professional? Are there typos? Are there grammatical errors? Have somebody look at this, because it really makes a difference. Third, please make sure your website is search engine friendly. So what I mean by that is, Google, Bing, Yahoo, people are using different search terms to find you, right? They're going to say, they're going to type in, I'm looking for a plumber in San Francisco, or I'm looking for a restaurant in Portland, Oregon. Whatever it is, you want to show up for those relevant searches. And how Google does that is Google looks through the content on your website. So Google sends, we call them spiders, and they go to your website, and they crawl through the contents, not just necessarily the things that you wrote, but it also looks at your tags, your meta tags, your H1 tags, and everything else on your code. And they're going to look through that, and they're going to say, okay, if somebody searches for a plumber, or if somebody searches for a business like yours, does your business fit that stereotype? And if it does, and Google can feel confident and trust that your website is one that they can trust, they're going to send people to your website. So when we mean search engine friendly, we're talking about not making sure that the content that you write is consistent across all of the web pages, as well as the content that Google will find in your code. If it is, then these search engines know that they can trust you. Finally, we need to make sure that there's a call to action and you have a conversion tool on your homepage. It needs to be, if you're looking for people to call you to make an appointment, or to call to get more information, or if you're an e-commerce site, if you're looking for people and you're saying, hey, please buy this from me, that needs to be front and center, and it needs to have a clear call to action on your website. If not, then you're really pushing people to your website, but you're not closing them on anything, and you're not going to convert business. And finally, your website needs to be responsive. And what I mean by this is no matter what device somebody views your website on, whether it's a tablet, a phone, a laptop, a desktop even, if they view your website, does it look professional, and does it respond to the viewing device? I'll go through a little bit more on that in the next couple of slides. So a couple of best practices. If you looked at the layout on the slide that we had, I'm sorry, on the website that we had on the previous slide, we made to make sure we had our business name, contact information, call to action, all on that. When we mean a differentiator or a selling point, now let's be honest, there's going to be competitors. More than likely, you've got a competitor a couple of miles from you, and you want to make sure that you stand out from your competitor. People are going to view that not only by the quality of your website, but they're also going to view it if you have a differentiator or a selling point. Okay, we need to make sure that we have that. That sets us apart from our competition. Please make sure, again, that your photos and your content are quality. One of the reasons actually, I just found out that I was going to present a couple of days ago. I don't have a good headshot, and we didn't want to put a bad headshot of me that was pixelated on this, and so that's why we used our orange soda logo. And that's an example of making sure you have quality photos and content that'll help draw people to your company. Finally, is there something memorable? Is there something that sets you apart? Please make sure that you have that, something that connects to your audience, something that tells us a story that brings people. I think we all, as business owners, we all know what our value proposition is. We're all passionate about who we are as a business. Please make sure that that differentiator is on your website and makes you memorable. Now, on the slide, we have the 3-second test. And what I mean by this is, if you look at your website across different platforms, right? Whether it's your mobile device, whether it's your desktop or laptop, how long does it take your website to load? So if you can find your website in Google, hey, that's great. Click it and let's see how long it takes to load, or type your address into the URL bar. Let's see how long it takes to load. If it takes more than 3 seconds, it is amazing, but people will stop looking for your website. We are that impatient now as a society. So we need to make sure that we load and people can find us quickly. Okay, so I mentioned earlier a little bit about what we call a responsive design. A responsive design, again, means that no matter what medium I'm using to find your website responds to that medium. It stretches to whatever that screen is, whether it's a tablet, a phone, a desktop, or a laptop. And that really will optimize people's viewing habits. Please make sure, and there's going to be in the tools that we send out later, there's going to be some websites you can actually test your website. You type your link in to your website, and it'll actually show you what your website looks across these 4 different mediums. So look for that later from us as a deliverable. But please think about it, because we do what we call the pinch test a lot on our phones, right? You're looking at a website and you want to read something, and so you have to pinch your thumb and pointer finger in, you have to push it out to be able to, view things closer and wider. That really is not optimal viewing. And we need to make sure that our website, especially our mobile site, is not only responsive, but if you have the opportunity and you have a provider that will do it, please make a mobile-specific website. Again, we see what the growth is. We know that more people are finding us on our mobile devices. Please make sure that your presence there is being felt. Okay, so we've talked about the growth of mobile. We've talked about our websites and driving people to our website. So next, let me show you how you can use different mediums across the entire internet to drive business to your website. A lot of questions are asked, right? How do I know that I'm getting people to my website? How do I know that they're converting into a sale? What can I do to get more people to buy my products online? This is an example of something that we did. So, I think many businesses, and you might be one, send out flyers in the newspaper, or we put it into like a value pack, or we have coupons that go in the mail, and then we wait for people to come back. So digitally, you can actually take that and you can make that into a digital coupon that will work for you. So you can take a print advertisement and you can make a digital coupon that'll go across 3 different mediums. So this is an example of what the coupon could look like on a mobile phone. The picture in the middle, you're seeing it right here. So this picture is what it would look like when somebody goes to the landing page and you're saying, hey, come celebrate with us, send this to Facebook or give us your email, send it to your friends so they can find out too. And the final picture on the far right, here you see it, is what after somebody gives you the email, the coupon that they get. So the power of this is when you're doing it online, you can actually go through and do it on a number of different platforms. So we always suggest that you look at doing it on Facebook. If you don't have a business Facebook page, you really need to have one. You can send promotions through Facebook. You can also do it through what we call digital directories. So a digital directory, I think many of you may have heard of them, but whenever you search especially on Google, when you go into a search page and you look at the first few listings that come up, they're usually going to be one of these directories. So if you're not being listed in there, you need to make sure that you are being listed, because number one, people are looking through those directories, but number two, you can put a coupon on those directories that gives people a reason, an incentive to come to you versus your competitors. Okay, third, you can also do what we call a Facebook ad. So I don't know how many of you have used Facebooks. I would believe most of us have a Facebook profile. And when we look at Facebook, on the far right, we're always going to see ads. And we're going to see sponsored posts as well if we're looking at it on our mobile device. And so these ads you can buy, and you can actually get very targeted with these ads. If you don't use it, I'm going to show you on the next page what a Facebook ad manager looks like and how you can really customize it to people that you are trying to target. And finally, another good way is this is a search engine result page. And on the page, when you look at the far right, usually you see this little yellow ads number, right? You see that box. You also see it on the top of some pages as well. So this is what we call it's a paid advertisement. And so this is another way that you can go and get your company noticed at the top of searches. So one of the things about Facebook, one of the reasons we really like Facebook is because Facebook has not only a number of users, but it has a number of tools for small businesses. And this is an example of what a screenshot looks like when you're choosing your audience and you're trying to make a campaign. You can get very specific with these campaigns. You can target people based on their demographics, where they live, if they're married, if they're not married, how old are they. You can also do it custom targeting based on their phone numbers if you're looking for specific area codes or specific IDs. To me, though, the most powerful is going to be a combination between a personal demographic and a social activity. And so in my last business, we would use this a lot. We would start targeting different regions, Australia, for example, or England, and we would target specific people who had Facebook pages that said, I specifically like this hobby. We would go after them. We would target specifically at them. And what was cool was Facebook would tell us, based on all of our the characteristics that we put in, they would say, you have an audience of 10,000. You have an audience of 5,000, whatever it is. And we knew, though, that we were spending our money targeted specifically at people who were interested in our business. That is the power of online advertising. You're not wasting dollars going across to people who may not be interested in your business, but you can do it even on related interests that might help your business. And that, to me, is really powerful. That way I know that I'm spending money specifically targeting people that are interested in finding out who I am. So this beauty salon that we did it with, we ran it for 2 weeks, and what was cool was their campaign reached over 18,000 people. And this is just a little beauty salon I actually can't give you the location, but it's in the Midwest, not a very big city. But what was cool was they started targeting all these people, and they, through Facebook and everything else, figured out our target audience is 18,000 people. From that, they had 240 promotional views, which means that 240 new customers came to their website to view them. Okay. From that, of the 240, we asked them, we actually put on their page, on their Facebook page, we said, hey, I'm sorry, on their website, we said, please share this with your friends. So of the 240, 59 of them went and shared it with their friends on Facebook, and in turn also gave us their email address. So now this beauty salon has 59 new potential customers that have a coupon, but that they can also follow up with. It's a lead generation opportunity for this business. And what happened was they converted at 24%. And to me, when I think about that, when I think about the fact that, really this campaign didn't cost them very much. They basically spent money on Facebook ads and putting something on their website. But yet this little beauty salon increased, again, Facebook likes, Facebook presence, and had 60 new people that they can now target heading into the holidays or into the New Year's, whatever it is. Really, really, it's a powerful tool. And to me, that's a really good example of how you can take business, somebody who might be interested, take them from just being somebody floating on the bubble to somebody who's actually looking at your business, to somebody who now visits your webpage and gives you their information so they become a future lead as well, to somebody who's purchased. And that, my friends, is the power of online marketing. Frank's going to talk a little bit more about it, but I'll be around at the end for questions as well if you have any questions. Over to you, Lori.
Well, thank you so much, Ray. All fantastic information. I think we're all really clamoring to know, does all of this work? So really appreciate the the hard data.
No problem.
And at this point, I would like to introduce our second speaker for today, Frank Rowan, Associate Founder of Mr. Business Builder, offering small business marketing education and tools both on-site or online. Frank is an international small business speaker, educator, and consultant, and his media career spans 3 decades teaching business building solutions in the areas of marketing communication, sales effectiveness, presentation proficiency, and customer kindness skills that, when used appropriately, increase small business profit. And Frank, it truly is a pleasure to have you join us today. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic, Lori. How are you?
I am wonderful. And folks, for anyone who may have joined late, Ray gave us some great statistics around the explosion of mobile and why mobile is such an important topic for all business owners, large and small, along with some great tips and best practices. Now, Frank, I know you have plenty of tips and tricks to share with us, so why don't you give us a quick preview of what you'll be covering today?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, Lori, I just want to say hello and thank you for this opportunity and to wish our audience well. What I'm going to talk today about are 5 key essentials that I believe as small business owners, I'm one. Everybody in the audience, I assume, is running or managing a small business. And so we need to pay particular attention to these essentials. And if we do, and we develop the time and the effort to make sure that we're benefiting by all of these particular topics, it's going to drive transactions to our business. So what I'm going to talk today about, Lori, is first of all websites and expand a little bit on what Ray said, social and your reputation management, which just means how people are communicating about us both on platforms like Facebook, and reputation management. You know, the one thing people are doing is talking about us. We know that. We've got to make sure that we understand where they are communicating about us and that we're taking action. And then certainly the mobile device is a huge play today. And then finally, we're going to talk about messaging. And I would just leave you with one thought. A message on any kind of an advertising platform is a promise to perform. And so we're going to speak a little bit about that as well. So does that sound like a pretty good game plan?
I think that sounds fantastic. I'm looking forward to it.
Okay, so let's get into this. Let's look at a couple of websites here. I'm going to leave you with 2 basic points to add to what Ray has already talked about. As you think about your website, and there may be people that do not have a website at all. So if you fall in that category, these tips are going to be very, very useful. You want to make sure in the upper right-hand quadrant that you have a call to action. And so a call to action could be call us today with your telephone number, or say yes to our promotion, and here's the telephone number. And the main reason for this, ladies and gentlemen, is when somebody pulls up your website through their mobile device, you want to make sure that that telephone number really houses itself or showcases itself at the top of the search on the mobile device so that they literally can click and call your number and get more information about your products and services without leaving your website. And that's really important. The other thing is we want to make sure that you have some bridge or link in your website that talks about, or that gives the buyer the opportunity to click on that and then bridge over to your Facebook, your business Facebook page. So those are a couple of things that I think would serve everybody well. I see a lot of businesses that have, you know, a Facebook page, a website, but they don't necessarily bring that conversation together. So that's a couple of points that I'd like to share with you to make it easier for buyers to spend with you. And an important question to ask yourself is, you know, the last customer that you talked to or that you did business with, how easy was it for them to actually transact with you? And in some cases it can be very, very difficult. And so we want to make it easy for them to shop with you and I. Let's take a look at Facebook. Here's an example of a couple of postings, and I like examples where you can compare like example A on the left to example B on the right. And I think it's worth noting that both of these examples, these are jewelers, have a very, very deep and rich fan base. Now, I want to talk about Blue Nile that's on the left, and if you take a look at this posting on their Facebook page, you're going to see one beautiful engagement ring. So for the person that's attracted to that, and they see that headline, pure, precious, platinum, that speaks to their need and their desire that that ring is going to look that way on their loved one. So I think that's really important to think through the words you're going to use to describe the image, and the image and those words should be supporting one another, if you will. The other thing I'd like you to look at as you look at Blue Nile is that there was over 15,000 people that liked this particular post. On the other hand, when you look at Diamond Nexus, we've got far less people who were attracted to this or who like this. So you know, that's an important metric for you and I to pay attention to as small business owners. Go back to Blue Nile for just a minute and look at the engagement. So you have a customer that says, how do I buy this baby? Now, I don't know about you, but when anybody wants to buy the products and services that I provide, you know, that's gold music to my ears. So the other thing to notice here is that somebody from Blue Nile, as you look down here, responded to the customer, the potential customer, and said, here's some directions on how you can get more information to buy the product and service. So the key here that I want you to really remember is engagement, engagement, engagement in terms of the conversation. And that's critical. Over on the right, not so many people liked the comparison. Perhaps a lot of people didn't like either of the two rings that have been shown here, and there's no engagement or no conversation whatsoever. So as we think about this, as you think about all the platforms that people can express themselves, both the buyer and the seller, which some are listed over in the graphic on the right-hand side, there's three key elements that I think really are important. And I'd like you to look at these numbers. 90%, 9 out of 10 consumers, your buyers, my buyers, tell us that if they receive a positive review, it increases the likelihood that they're going to purchase from you and me. Now, Lori, I don't know. I mean, do you tend to buy from people that that you like and trust or not?
You know, I do. As a matter of fact, I drive 45 miles just to get my oil changed.
Yeah, because whoever that person is,
that's right, I like and trust.
Yeah, that you like and trust. And we're not going to spend money with people that we don't. So that's, that's basic, but it's the little things that make up the big things. 7 out of 10 consumers say that positive reviews build trust, and that just reinforces what you just said, Lori. But one of the things that I find particularly interesting is customers always say to me, how in the world do I change a negative response on some platform like Yelp or some rating and review platform? Well, how do I go about doing that? And I think the answer lies in this stat. Unhappy customers, almost 100% of them, tell us that if the business owner understands the issue, reaches out to the buyer and says, I'm going to fix this in a quick, efficient manner, then they tend to go right back on that platform and write a review that says, hey, I had a problem, but I got to tell you, these guys ended up top notch and I'd recommend them. So it's one of those things that buyers are talking about us, and we better pay attention to it. And even if you do not use digital devices, understand that your consumers are talking about you day in and day out, just like they're talking about me, both on and offline. And if we don't know about it, we can't fix it. So we have to really take the time and the effort to pay attention to what people are saying to us, and then go ahead and do everything in our power to correct it. Now, what I'd like to do is I would just like to talk about integration. Think about your website. Think about the social Facebook and the reputation management, people talking about us day in and day out, plus the integration now of this explosion that Ray talked about around mobile usage. Now, people say this is the strategy for success. What I would say is this is an opportunity to increase transactions for you and me if we're willing to play in this game. If we're not, I think we're going to lose transactions to our competitors. Don't know about you, but that's not what I want for my business. So let me leave you with 4 words to remember. Presence, reach, engagement, and conversion. We want conversions. So let's go back to presence for a minute. It's important that you and I claim our business online. We have to reserve and say to people, I am one of your choices. We have to build our brand awareness online, and if you're doing it great, just keep doing what you're doing and always research how everything is going. If you're not doing any of this work, begin to study up on it and see what you can do to build your awareness online and claim your business online. If you don't do it, I will assure you your competitors are. Reach. We want to make sure that we want to communicate the value, what we stand for, to the right audience and at the right time and with the right message. And I'll tell you, the right time to send a message is at the point of sale when somebody wants you. And when they're looking on a mobile device, they're searching and they're purchasing. And you want to make sure it is responsive, as Ray talked about, on any mobile device, even if you don't have one. Engagement, that's like that Facebook example. The more you can build a dialogue with your customer, not a monologue, but where you have engagement with people, that's great. The biggest mistake I see on Facebook is the consumer is reaching out and say, hey, how do I buy this baby? And then nobody responds back. I mean, it's crazy. It makes me nuts, really, because there is a hot lead out there for you and me, and because we're not checking Facebook and what people are talking about, we're unaware of it. Think of mobile devices and conversions. Every time you see a mobile device, I would like you to think about or visualize money coming out of that device or credit card opportunities coming out of that device, because it's more than just a computer or a telephone. It really is the conduit that connects sellers with buyers. And so you and I need to be where our buyers are searching for us. So you know, with that thought in mind,
Could I interrupt you for just a moment, Frank?
Sure. Sure.
There's a particularly relevant question coming in from an attendee here, and that is, as small business owners, how do we find the time to do all these things, you know, focusing on our business and all of that?
Well, first of all, I think it's a great question. Business owners, you know, one of the single greatest problems they have is lack of time. And so here's the thing. If you can go and learn this information and spend the time to develop these conversations online, then by all means. Yet on the other hand, if you know that your time's better spent doing what you do best, then I think it makes sense to really consider and search out somebody that that can help you do this work, some outside vendor that can help you do this work. Because in the long run, you're gonna make more revenue that's going to drive to your business by you doing what you do best. So, I would just say ask for help. We're not successful by ourselves. Generally, there are other people around us that help us increase our revenue and become successful. Does that help a little bit?
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay, you bet. So, all I'm saying here in continuing is that we want to make sure that we understand that buyers decide. So let me say it again, buyers decide, right? Please remember this. Your number one objective is to ensure that any potential buyer that's looking at you and comparing you with anybody else, that they believe through your content and your messaging and your professional online presence that you've claimed, that you are their best choice as they look at your website through your mobile device. So let me just say the key point here. You have to communicate to me that you are my best choice, because that's where I'm going to gravitate to. And think about yourself as a consumer. My guess is that's probably what you're doing as well. The other thing that I think I'd like to talk about is what you do matters. It really does. And I want to leave you with 5 action items, because I believe that information like this without action is worthless. So my hope is that you will tick through these 5 items and actually work on them the second you exit this particular webinar. Number 1, make sure you've got a click-to-call, easy, accessible way for people to call you from their website, so they don't have to leave your website and find a number somewhere else. Number 2, make sure that you engage your social fans with the right message that's relevant to their needs and how you're going to provide a solution to them at the right time, and the right time is when they have a need for what you do with the right device. And we know that people are sitting in their homes with other computer devices and they're still shopping off their smartphones. Make sure that you've got an integrative approach. You're thinking about the website, you're thinking about the design, you're thinking about information-rich content, you're thinking about social media, your Facebook page, you're thinking a little bit about reputation management. You know that people are talking about you and you want to be aware of this. It's no different than if you had somebody call your business to check up on how somebody's answering your telephone. And if there was a problem, you'd correct it. And it's the same thing digitally. Pay attention to your online reviews, and then at the end you'll have the opportunity to go to these links where you can type in your domain name and see how responsive each or how responsive your website is relative to a tablet or a mobile device or a laptop or what have you. With that thought in mind, I would just say that know that Smart Reach Digital is local. They have a lot of complementary analysis that they can provide your business. I've done this myself at no charge. It's been very useful content to me. So I would suggest that this could be a possibility in terms of reaching out for somebody that might be able to provide you with a little bit of competitive analysis. What I'm going to do, Lori, is turn this back to you. And thank you, everybody, for hearing me out over the last 15 minutes or so.
Well, thanks, Frank. It was a pleasure. Really fantastic information. Folks, what you see on the screen here on the left side is just a summary of those action items, the call to action that Frank challenged all of us to do when we finished the webinar today. And I wanted to give you a quick chance to review those, because the poll that I'm going to put up does reference them. So that's what we're talking about with the action items. I'm going to go ahead and launch that poll because we would love to hear from each of you. Based on the information presented today, what actions will you take? So in the next 2 weeks, this is kind of your commitment to yourself, I will implement all 5 items presented, as they're easy to implement and they'll help grow my business. I'll implement most of the 5 items presented, so maybe not get to all of them in the next couple weeks. If you'd like to schedule that free digital competitive analysis that Frank was just talking about, you can let us know here. Check out my competitors' sites on a mobile device, or research or purchase a product on my mobile device. I'm going to go ahead and ask our speakers, Frank, Rowan, and Ray Wonder, to step back to the virtual podium, and let's go ahead and start entertaining the questions and let folks weigh in. First question here that I see is, looks like a good one for you, Ray. How does mobile and search engine optimization work together?
That's a very good question. Search is a huge part of mobile marketing. Most of the search engines know that because people are looking for things on their mobile devices, they're targeting their SEO and everything else towards mobile-friendly applications. And so that means that whether you're on your phone or whether you're on your laptop, the processes that you would use for a normal SEO campaign are going to be the same. Secondly, there's a number of different ways that businesses can use apps. So if you're a location-based business, an app like Yelp, Foursquare, Yellow Pages, etc., they always have new and kind of innovative apps coming up constantly, and keeping an eye on those and making sure that you are found in those is another way that can really help your business find some customers very quickly.
Okay, thanks so much. I'm going to move over to you, Frank, and the question here is, how do I create simple and effective messages for mobile devices?
Great question. Excellent question. Look, with the explosion of mobile devices, which simply means that people are using these to search and purchase, search and purchase. Again, search and purchase. There's a couple things I think you can do. One is make sure you understand the size of the device. So, it's not like you have a 27-inch screen, right? So, number one, I would suggest that you keep your messaging that you've created short, to the point, and easy to read. That'd be my first suggestion. Number two, I wouldn't use too much text, because mobile users don't want a lot of text that they have to scroll through to figure out what in the world the solution is to my question. So a good way, perhaps, to circumvent this is to use photos or videos to tell a story instead of long articles, for example. Stories are powerful. This is what people tend to remember. And so probably the final thing I would say, Lori, is point size. How large the font is, the lettering is. I think really optimal is 22-point size for headlines and maybe 16 points for body text. So those would be 4 items that I'd have people consider as they're thinking about effectively communicating and showcasing their business on a mobile device.
Perfect. All great information. I'm going to go back over to you, Ray. David's asking, what percentage of online shoppers are purchasing from mobile devices, and does the type of business you own and run have any influence on this? For instance, David says, I run a mobile DJ entertainment service, and I think most clients book or shop via laptop or PC.
David, that's a really good question. It really is dependent on the type of business that you are in. I do agree with that. If I am in your shoes as a mobile DJ entertainment service, obviously I'm going to make sure that people are viewing me, and the experience that they have is, like we talked about before. No matter what they're viewing you on, it's going to be clear, and it's going to be good. The thing is, I think if people are at a party that you're at or doing something, and you're self-promoting yourself, you have some plugs that are put in, they're going to probably try and find you on Facebook very quickly, or they're going to look you up online on their phone right there. So automatically, that your presence you're going to need to make sure that you have a good presence on those 2 mediums. And I think one of the things that you can do is, I think especially in your line of business, and you probably know this better than I do, but reputation really goes a long way. And Frank talked a lot about, referrals and getting reviews up. I think your Facebook page, having a robust Facebook page and probably pushing some things through Facebook would help. And I think most of your conversions are probably, to your point, not going to be a purchase online, but more a push for an appointment or for a discussion with you on what a future appointment could look like. I hope that answered your question.
Perfect. Thank you. I'm going to go back to Frank. Susan's asking, oops, sorry. My screen just jumped. I apologize.
No
I'm going to go back
worries.
to you, Ray, for one more. Gary's asking, I have had my same domain name since 1996, but don't seem to come up on the first few pages on Google. It's a $1 million question. How can I move up?
Gary, that is a $1 million question. The, there's so many reasons why you're not coming up. And it can depend on, number one, how competitive your space is. If you're in a very competitive space and you've got a lot of people, your competitors, for example, who are doing SEO or who are doing some of the things that we talked about today that you're not, Google's going to trust them automatically. You have some longevity behind you, which is a good thing in some cases, but if you're not focused and if your website, especially the content on it, isn't focused specifically on the things that people are searching for, so if those two aren't matching up for whatever reason, then realistically the longevity doesn't help. When I talk to people about credit or about SEO scores, I usually tell them it's like a credit score. There's so many different variables that go into it that you really can't focus on one thing. So for example, with a credit score, I can't just pay one credit card and ignore my other credit cards and expect my credit score to improve, expect everything to be great. I need to really be firing on all cylinders. And it's going to be very unique to myself, right? Myself and my situation. For example, I am a dad. I have, twins and a girl, and my wife stays at home. And so our credit score is going to be very different than somebody who's right out of college, no kids, first job. What I would probably suggest is if you can talk to somebody who understands SEO, who can get you through an SEO analysis to look at your website, they can probably give you very quickly a couple of very specific things that you can do that would really help that ranking.
Ray, I'd just like to add one other point to that if I could. I think that's excellent. I do believe that given that Google commands most of the search right now today, that if you don't have a Google Plus page, I think it's great to make sure that you have that as well, and that you see that people are writing reviews with you or about you on that forum. And I've found with customers that helps, in addition to what Ray's talking about, help you index quicker, faster on a search engine results page.
That's a good point. Thanks, Frank. Gary, one last point. And maybe this is pertinent to everybody else as well. Google really dominates this industry, and if Google makes a change that you don't know about, things that you had done before that were considered white hat or very good tactics, for example, for SEO and being found on the first page, may not be the same that they were last year. And so I would honestly say if you know somebody that knows SEO, or you can have somebody look at some of the things and get caught up with Google, and it's hard as a small business owner to find that time, but they can probably go through it and find some things that would really help you with that.
Okay. Back to you, Ray. And okay, Sarah's asking, why isn't my business's social media following growing?
Sarah, that is a really good question. And wow, okay, so there could be a lot of reasons why it's not growing. Number one, really your social media following is going to be about engagement. A lot of times, and this is the temptation as a business, when I have a following and I have an audience and I need sales, I'm trying to think of every way that I can to get money in, to get them to purchase, right? I'm trying to put an ad out there and saying, buy this, buy this, buy this, and I'm hoping that people do that. Well, the problem is, I think that's how we think as business owners, but that's not what our audience wants. Our audience really isn't interested in seeing a 20% off everyday coupon or something. What they're really interested in engagement. They're interested in how well you connect with them, right? Interested in the value and the tidbits that you're providing to them. And so I think that number one, you have to have a balance between the two. You need to really look at what you're posting on your social media networks. Is it of value to the people? Is it funny? Is it catching? Is it, we talked about websites, right? Is it memorable, right? Does it tell a story? Does it get people engaged with you? And I think as you do some of those things and you balance it out, number one, I think that's one of the first things you can do. Number two, I would also look at the frequency and the engagement that you have. Now, what I mean by this is we know as businesses that Facebook is trying to get us to spend more money. So despite the fact that my little small business, the business that we ran before, for example, had 180,000 followers on Facebook, but I knew that every day the posts that I put up there would only get to maybe 6 to 8% of them unless I paid for it, right? Unless I did a sponsored post. And that's what Facebook is trying to do, is they're trying to grow their business engine that way. So number one, I would need to do that. But number two, if I wasn't posting frequently enough, that 8 to 10% that I could normally get on a day shrinks very quickly. And so you need to make sure that you're posting and your people are engaged. And see, whenever you post and people get engaged and they start to share things, that sharing, it's not just liking, but it's the sharing in the comments, that really drives engagement on Facebook. And Facebook's algorithm, it's called the EdgeRank algorithm, looks at that, and they will take that and they will keep your post on people's feeds longer. And so what you need to do is, it's not just about a sale or a purchase, but you need to think about how do you, for your business, how do you personalize some of these things that people start getting engaged with it? And as you do, I guarantee you your followings will go up.
Thank you so much. And folks, before I go to what looks like will be our last question, I did want to take a moment to share the poll results that you participated in, because really happy to see that so many of you are planning to implement all or almost all of those 5 items that were presented. Almost 30% taking us up on that free competitive analysis from SmartReach Digital, as well as checking out your competitors' sites and researching and purchasing a product on your mobile device. So we're all on the right road there and appreciate the input. I am going to go to what looks like our last question. This is over to you, Frank. And Bob's asking, is it okay to post the same content to each network every day, or should we post different stuff on different sites?
Another great question. I mean, these are the things that we think about day in and day out. First of all, I would say that buyers connect with you and I on different networks for different reasons, right? So with that thought in mind, your social networks aren't necessarily the place for you to blast information out to your audience, day over day. I also think it's important to test your content with your audience and determine, what's most important to them. And, you can do this by taking a look at certain engagement metrics, like the number of likes to a particular post, or comments, or people sharing with other people those posts, or retweeting, or various kinds of clicks that may happen. So I think that's a good metric to look at. The best way to figure out what type of content your audience is most interested is just to think about the most common questions that your customers ask you every day. So I call them do you questions. Do you do this? Do you do that? Do you do this? You answer these questions day in and day out, and I'll guarantee you when they're looking at you online, they're asking themselves the very same questions. So I would make sure that I have answers to those questions on my website, social media, that kind of thing. So I think this provides a pretty good insight into the type of content that's working, and then how you can change those elements that need to be changed, and keep on with what's working, what's relevant.
Hey, Frank, if I can jump on for a second, maybe this will help us address Gary's question as well, where Gary said he had the same domain, but he's not ranking on the first pages of Google. Google also looks very closely at social content, meaning blogs, websites. Pinterest, for example, is another one. Google Plus, obviously, as Frank said, is an important one. But, as Frank is saying, if you test content on one area and you see that it's relevant, people are really responding to it, as Frank says, as you push this into different areas across your web presence, if you will, whether it be your blog on your website or you link it back and you put it as a Facebook post, there's a number of different ways you can do this. What happens is you're also sending messages to Google on consistency. And Google will read this and they'll see it and they'll see that you are in different places across the web, number one. Number two, that the relevant content that people are searching for and interested in are in different areas across your website portfolio, and that automatically increases your opportunity to move up in rankings as well. Sorry, just a side note, thinking about Gary's question, I wanted to throw that in there.
Great. Yeah, great side note, Ray. And there are so many great questions. Unfortunately, we are rubbing up against the top of the hour, but I wanted to invite each speaker to leave us with a brief closing comment. I'll start with you, Ray.
Well, first, I appreciate your time. I know as small business owners, time is very valuable. There's always things you need to do. It's always something that needs to get done, and you're the ones that do it. But, it's important to spend time in what I call quadrant 2, right? The quadrant where you're really looking about your business holistically. You're thinking about where your business is, and I commend you for doing that. I think some of your competitors probably aren't. Some probably have done this a little while ago. You need to catch up, but I commend you for doing that, and we hope that the things that you learned today will help you look at your website, look at your online presence, and see things that can help you grow your business. Good luck, and please know that we're cheering for you and supporting you.
Fantastic. And how about you, Frank?
Well, just in closing very quickly, I think it's important to understand that your messaging, your media message is a promise to perform. And when you say you're going to do something and you broadcast that or showcase that about your business on or offline, people expect that you're going to follow through. So be very guarded and very careful about what you promise. And what I see a lot of times, people will just rubber stamp a media message because they're so busy and say, run it through, go ahead and print it, go ahead and change my website page, what have you, without really thinking about what that promise is all about and how quickly and efficiently you can follow through and fulfill on that. The other thing is make sure you communicate that any media message to your employees. There's nothing worse than an employee answering a telephone or talking to a customer and they bring up something they've seen online and your employee, if you do have employees, don't have a clue what they're talking about. So thank you. I appreciate this opportunity, and I wish everybody a great 2014.
All right, and folks, we are at that time, but I did want to thank each of you for joining us today. Hope you found today's webinar to be of value and that you'll want to join us for some future events. Special thanks to our guests, Ray and Frank, as well as our sponsor for today, Smart Reach Digital. And again, as your moderator, this is Lori Dearman saying thank you and have a great rest of the week. Bye for now.